When it comes to the box office for Dune Part 2, I don't think many people will be surprised that it's done well because it had quite a few factors in its favour. One being that it is this year's first major blockbuster, it is also a Part 2 to a very well adored Part 1, and of course it's got the star power to boot with so many different stars involved in the film, and it has the scale which really demands that cinema treatment. We now have the data for its second week at the box office, and it had a drop of 44% domestically, which is less than 50%, which makes it one of the best holds for any recent blockbuster. At the time of recording, the film has taken around $367 million globally. Now it does need around $500 million just to break even, but it is aiming to get around a projected $700 million in its entire theatrical run. After just 10 days on the big screen, Dune Part 2 has already surpassed the entire domestic tally of the first film, which was $108 million, though it was worth mentioning that that film came out in 2021, which is during the pandemic, and also that film was released in cinemas, but also at the same time on HBO Max. Another stat which I think is worth mentioning is that for many of you, you'd have seen Dune Part 2 in IMAX, and for its second week, it only had a dip of 15% globally.
Impressive. Most impressive.
Now, as the month goes on, there are some other big blockbusters coming out, like Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and also Godzilla x Kong The New Empire. Now, in terms of Ghostbusters, it won't have as wide of appeal, I don't think, as Dune Part 2 will. I think it does have to have a fantastic score when it comes to the reviews, for people to really buy tickets for it, because I think a lot of people look at it and think, I can maybe wait for this, see it on streaming. I'd rather go and see Dune Part 2 again, or for a third time. However, for Godzilla x Kong, I think it's a different story, because that is such a spectacle type of film. It's a big popcorn flick. Now it is coming out at the end of March as well, so it does give Dune Part 2 the whole month pretty much of March to really dominate, and I think at that point people will be ready for the next thing.
Now what?
Word of mouth is certainly working very well for Dune Part 2 at the moment because there is so much excitement around it, so if there are people on the fence about seeing it, they will bite the bullet because all their friends are raving about it, but they have to go see it ASAP. With Barbie and Oppenheimer and the Taylor Swift film last year, those films became event films, and now that's the case with Dune Part 2. And now for Hollywood, it's trying to find out where the next one of these sort of films will come from. Will it be the Mad Max film Furiosa? Will it be Deadpool and Wolverine? Or will it be something we haven't really heard about yet, but they're going to try and make it into an event film? Back on Dune Part 2 though, I think for many people involved in this year's Oscars, they'll be breathing a sigh of relief that this film got delayed from its original November 2023 release date, because I think for many categories it would have probably have won actually, and I think for next year's Oscars it will probably take a lot of awards, especially when it comes to things like costumes, cinematography, best picture perhaps, and also some of the acting awards as well. I think Rebecca Ferguson and Austin Butler for me would be my favourites for actually any nominations. With all the data I've shared in this video, it all becomes even more impressive with the fact that Dune Part 2 is a near 3-hour film. But just from my own experience, the runtime never really crossed my mind when watching the film because I was so enticed with this world. I really escaped to Arrakis. I was immersed, which is quite rare to see these days, and I was just there eating it all up.
More.
Something I wasn't expecting from this film was the comedy, and Javier Bardem as Stilgar was the standout in that regard. And as quite a few people mentioned, it did have a bit of an essence of Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Now, fuck off!
For many of us, we've been moaning for ages about comedy feeling forced into films, especially when it comes to Marvel films, for example. But here, the comedy is more natural, and with that, makes it more funny. There's even a moment where we have Paul trying to explain to Chani how to sandwalk, and in another film, she could have easily responded with a snarky comment, but she just gives him a look, and that's exactly what we need. We don't need anything else, and I think in terms of Zendaya playing her, she was really good actually with her physical acting. There's many times where the camera just pans to her face, and again, we know exactly how she's feeling in that moment. Her chemistry with Timothée Chalamet really makes you buy into the romance of the film, and there is just so much going on here that it's such a packed movie. We have this romance, we have the battle scenes, we have, riding sandworms, it's like riding dragons from Game of Thrones. It's like such an epic sort of scene we have with that. And it's one of those where there's so much going on and it's so well brought to life where you're like, how do they actually do this? You know, it's really that movie magic, which we don't get to see so much these days, where I want to see, you know, I want to see the behind the scenes. I want to find out how they actually did all this.
That was totally wicked!
There are a few nitpicks I'd have with this film. One being in the final third, there are quite a few things which do get resolved, and it just feels like at times there are a few missing pieces where it does get resolved a bit too quickly. But again, it's a very small thing there. Also with Christopher Walken as the Emperor, that didn't quite work for me either, but then he doesn't have a big role, so it's not a major issue. Florence Pugh also has a small role in the film, but with her character, I would definitely like to see more of her. And we'll be doing that when it comes to Dune Messiah, which Denis Villeneuve has said he will be doing, but he just needs a bit of time, a bit of break from this whole Dune experience. Like in the first film, the Harkonnens were played very well with people like Stellan Skarsgård and Dave Bautista coming back, but in this one we do get Austin Butler as Feyd-Rautha, and he was just amazing, and he's a character where you just want to see more of him. It's like there's not enough of him in the film. I need more. I need a spin-off with this character. And as teased in the trailer, there is that scene where he's fighting in the arena, which is one of the best scenes in the film. And for Austin Butler, he's really showing his range. Like, he can do Elvis, he can do this. What's he going to do next? He's really becoming a real major star of this new Hollywood wave. And speaking about all that, I have to mention the main star, Timothée Chalamet, because he really does go up another level in this part too. I think after Wonka as well, he's really been put on the map now. Like, you can speak to your nan, for example, and say, oh yeah, that's the guy from Wonka, and they can put a face to this name, Timothée Chalamet. And so yeah, his status is certainly growing in Hollywood. But yeah, he's just a really talented actor, and I think for some people they were worried he couldn't quite pull off this character of Paul Atreides, but I think here he's definitely shown that he is very capable. There's no doubt that Dune Part 2 won't be for everyone. With a film having so much of a religious presence, that is going to be a turn-off for many people. There is quite a lot of odd shit which happens, especially when it comes to Rebecca Ferguson's character, Lady Jessica. And of course, it is a slow burn of a movie, and again, a lot of people don't like that sort of thing. But for me, I loved it. I wanted to take the scenic route, I wanted to see the beauty of this film, and it was just jaw-dropping. So yeah, Dune Part 2 was an epic experience. Denis Villeneuve knows how to deliver these sort of films, and he's done it again. And with Hans Zimmer's score alongside everything, it was just a treat to see. And I hope it makes as much money as it can do, because these are the films we want to see more of. And I hope that is a big message to Hollywood that, you know, if you actually hire people who can do their job properly and that are actually qualified to do the job as well, then this is the sort of results you'll get. So we'll wait and see how it does with its overall box office run. But let me know your thoughts on Dune Part 2. How many times are you going to see it? Are you going to see it only once, or are you not going to bother seeing it? Let me know all that down below. And if you want to continue the conversation about Hollywood, on screen is a video where I talk about whether Hollywood franchises can be saved.